Hello, St. John. Welcome. Come on in the room. We're going to give a few moments for people to come on in. Welcome to our Let's Get Vaccinated talk for tonight. Hello. Welcome. Let me know you're here. Leave a comment in the comment section. Say hello as you come in. Hello, Sandra Pickett. Hello, Mike Boone. Brother Massey. Hello. Welcome, guys. Sister Cora, welcome. We're going to give a few more minutes for some more folks to join the room, but you are in for a treat tonight. So welcome. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day and entering into an awesome evening. We are here this evening. We're going to give you some more COVID-19 updates and let you know if you have been vaccinated, what you can do now. So we are excited that our speakers are here and ready to go, and they are going to give you a wealth of information. So you get your pens out, you get your questions ready. If you put your questions in the comment section, we'll be able to answer your questions either during the presentation or after. And so we are so excited that you've joined us this afternoon. So welcome, everyone. And we're going to get started in one more minute. So let's allow some more folks to come on in.
I have one question, Lisa. I am not able to type in the chat for everyone. So I'll let you mull on that.
So make sure that your chat button says all. And then when you type, you will hit enter.
Don't have a chat button except for my private chat. I know. I thought interesting.
There's like a pull down arrow right beside where you would type your chat, your comment. Sorry, everyone. Some technical flaws we're going to work out because we want to be able to answer all of your questions and have the experts be able to have dialogue with you concerning updates to COVID-19, the vaccine, and what you can do with your families right now if you have been vaccinated. So we are excited about this. Dr. Cragen, did you get it?
No, it's fine. I will just monitor the chat and answer verbally.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And if you need me, hopefully I can help you out with all of this. So without further ado, I want to welcome everyone tonight to our Let's Get Vaccinated second installment of our series. We are delighted that these ladies have agreed to take us through the month of June with giving us up-to-date information and making sure that we all have access to the vaccine. And so we are going to welcome Kelly Kessler, who is from the Howard County Health Department. And we're going to also welcome family physician Dr. Rhea Cragen, who are going to come tonight to team up to give us some exciting news. And so without further ado, ladies, you can take it away.
Well, thank you, Lisa, and thank you all again for welcoming us. Although I was teasing Lisa and Dr. Craig in that I think I need a t-shirt. I didn't quite match. I need my St. John swag too. So hopefully I'll be considered honorary after our series is over in June. But thank you all so much. And I'm excited to again partner with your congregation, with Dr. Cragen, to kind of talk about this. I know there's a lot of questions and a lot of information, and we're talking about just how much has changed since we met just a month ago even. So some of what we'll talk about tonight will probably take a new spin on what we talked about before. But before we jump in, Dr. Cragen, did you want to say anything as we kick off?
No, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Rhea Cragen. I'm a board certified family medicine physician, 30 years in practice, and I was baptized at St. John and married at St. John. So it has been a huge part of my life, and I am happy to be able to share information so that we can help our communities keep ourselves informed and improve our health.
Thank you. And I'll I guess formally introduce myself. As Lisa said, I'm Kelly Kessler, and I am the Bureau Director for Population Health at the Howard County Health Department. I also direct our local health improvement coalition, and I'm also working with the state vaccine equity task force through the Department of Health and the state of Maryland. So it's been very interesting, and I feel a special bond with St. John. Although I have not been a congregant there growing up in Howard County, it's been an institution in my whole life that I remember. And so I have been so appreciative as a community member, very fortunate being a long reach community member to have seen firsthand the work that's been done in the community. So we're excited to kind of kick off. And so without further ado, we'll kind of talk about a number of different things. So we wanted to offer the opportunity. As was said, I invite everybody to kind of put questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to kind of address them. But I think one of the biggest questions, I know that we ask this a lot in my own home, is the "Are we there yet?" question. And as a mother of three, I've had this question asked to me quite a number of times, and I found myself asking it the same as well. And so I just want to give a quick snapshot of where we are as a community. And there's some really good news, and then there's also some very challenging news. And so like we did at the last session, I'd just like to pause for a minute and recognize and honor the lives of the 238 of our Howard County community members that are no longer with us. This has been a very difficult year, and I know that the loss that many have faced and the challenges is immeasurable. So I'm just going to ask if we pause for just about 10 seconds and honor those lives, people that are special to us, people that have touched us, and that we are going to dedicate our evening to tonight. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. I want to start with some good news in this front, which is that over 37% of Howard County residents are now fully vaccinated. And when you think about where we were a year ago to where we are now, that is incredible. We are living history in seeing what we have seen. Over 50% of our community, it's actually about 53%-ish, of those that are 16 or older have received at least one dose of their vaccine, if they're receiving a 2 vaccine, or if they are the one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So we're making great progress in that. We are starting to see where we had seen an uptick in our positivity rate as well as our 7-day average. We're starting to see that level off, which is good news. So we're not out of the woods yet, and to the point we're not there yet. We still have a ways to go. And with that being said, we have to continue practicing the things that we know are protective for us. And we're going to talk about that quite a bit. I also wanted to share from the last time we met till tonight, we are now at a place where all Marylanders ages 16 and up are now eligible for vaccine. And so we strongly encourage everyone to go ahead and try to get the vaccine. And we wanted to remind people again about things that can and cannot be done, meaning that the vaccine is free. You should not be charged for that. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of what we're seeing in terms of vulnerabilities for our families now in regards to people and fraud around vaccine. And then I also wanted to share with folks, just again, some positive news. I am a little competitive, maybe just a hair competitive. And so I was really proud. I see you laughing. I think you maybe already can read that about my personality. I was really proud of this, but the reality is we had really tried to identify some of our most vulnerable community members that had been impacted, and those were our older residents. In Howard County, we have vaccinated nearly 100%, just over 99% of 75 and up, and 80% plus of those that are 65 and older. And that's really exciting news because we know that there are many groups disproportionately affected. In just a moment, I'll put in the chat box some information where you can find the Howard County COVID dashboard. And you can actually look at a great amount of data around COVID in terms of cases, in terms of deaths. Unfortunately, you can look at vaccine and you can see how that's all broken down and help hold us accountable in making sure that things are being done in an equitable fashion in our community. So we're really proud of that piece. So kudos to our county. Where can I get vaccinated? A lot of what I'm saying right now is kind of review, but I wanted to share some of the changes to what we've seen. When we met a month ago, getting vaccinated was actually much more difficult than it is now in terms of finding an appointment for a vaccine. There were pre-registration surveys, there were the vaccine hunters, there was a lot of things going on, and all were very necessary. What we are reaching a point now is that you can actually go directly to the health department website, and you'll see the link there. And you can actually find the direct link to register for an appointment at clinics going on that week. We also still have our line that you can call through the health department, 410-313-6284, and people can help you get registered through the Howard County Health Department clinics. But we also have, through the state now, many mass vaccination sites. Some of you have probably heard about the one that will be opening at the Columbia Mall this week, actually. And so we have a number of opportunities available to us, and you can register for those sites at the covidvax.maryland.gov. We've also done a lot. This is one of my happy pictures since we met last time. And we had our clinic at St. John Baptist, and we have also been able to partner with 20 additional congregations to offer clinics, not only to the congregation, but we've been able to expand it to the surrounding community, which I know is really important because congregations don't stop at their four walls. And so it's been a really wonderful thing, and we look forward to continuing that work together. How much does it cost to be vaccinated? I'm just going to state this really quickly, and then we're going to have some more discussion on the meat and crux of I know what people are looking at tonight, which is specifically how does this relate to them as a person. But again, we want you to know that vaccine providers cannot charge you for a number of things. They can't charge you for the vaccine. They can't charge you administrative fees, co-pays, or co-insurance. They can't deny you a vaccination because you don't have health insurance, or you're underinsured, or you're out of network, or anything like that. They can't charge you an office visit fee to the recipient if the only thing that's provided is a COVID service. If you happen to be there for other services, they may charge you for those. And they cannot require you to be there for additional services in order to charge you for those services. It is important to know that providers can seek appropriate reimbursement for a vaccine's recipient plan. And so if you've registered, or you go to register through a pharmacy, CVS, or a Walgreens, or a Walmart, or any of those other programs, they may ask you for insurance information, and they can seek appropriate reimbursement, but they can't charge you anything above what they could be reimbursed for, and they cannot deny you a vaccine if you say that you are uninsured. So it's important to keep that in mind, because what we are unfortunately seeing And as family members, it's our responsibility to really kind of keep an eye out for this. Is we're seeing people being taken advantage of, either because they don't necessarily understand what they can and cannot be charged for, or we're seeing them be deterred from completing a registration for a vaccine because they are being asked questions that they don't believe that they should be. So it's important to note that. The other thing is providers cannot charge the vaccine recipient the balance of anything that is not covered by the reimbursement that they can apply for. So long and short, nobody should be asking you for your debit card in order to get your COVID vaccine. And that's a very important thing that I think can be a barrier for many people. So I'm going to leap over to my colleague, Dr. Cragen, and we're going to talk about sort of vaccine safety and do they work? And the big question that I'm sure many of you have, what about the pause? What does that mean? So Dr. Cragen, you want to kind of take it away?
Sure. One of the reasons why I'm happy to discuss this is that, I've seen it impact the Black and Brown community disproportionately. A lot of people can think of people that they know who have been affected by this. Some people have lost loved ones, but other people got COVID and they're living with symptoms that haven't gone away. They are sometimes called the long haulers. And one of the things that I know that we can do to get back to a more happy life, a more fulfilling life, a more varied life, where we move about a lot more, is to, discuss about vaccination. It is a personal choice, something that you can decide for yourself, but my job is to make sure you have correct information to help make the decision that's best for you and your family. So there are a couple of different types of vaccines. There are 2 mRNA vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, and they have been out since December of last year. Actually, Moderna got approved in January, but Pfizer's been out since December of last year. And so we have data saying that they are safe and effective and that they provide protection for at least 7 months now. We have longer data than that because there was a trial that started and it's been going on a year. So the people in the trials have been protected for a year, but we've only been vaccinating the general public since December. The other type of vaccine is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. These are approved by emergency use authorization in the US. There are other vaccines similar to the Johnson & Johnson. They're viral vector, and Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca are those types of vaccines that exist currently. AstraZeneca isn't approved in America yet. But for Johnson & Johnson, there was a pause because initially they found 6 women that had a rare blood clot that the central venous sinus thrombosis. Say that 3 times fast.
That's why you have the MD and not me.
And what they noticed about it that was different, because blood clots are a rare thing, and they are they're 20 times more common with COVID-19 disease than they are with the vaccine. But what they noticed with the vaccine was that in addition to this rare blood type, blood clot, which was seen less than in the general population, the thing that was odd about it is that the people had low platelet counts. And platelets are the sticky little things in your blood that help clot. So if you cut your hand, you'll notice that you start to bleed, but eventually the blood slows down because of the platelets. And then eventually you make a scar and it stops bleeding. So the platelets are there to help you to stop bleeding if you cut yourself. But the problem with these 6 women was that in addition to blood clotting, their platelets were low. And so that raised a little red flag, and our surveyors of all the symptoms or side effects that people may be reporting to VAERS, which is the screening house where they look at adverse events. They noticed that these 6 people all had low platelets. And because of that, they decided that there might be something going on, and they put it in a pause. When they did the pause, they found that there were a total of 15 people, and all with the same symptoms. But it was so low in the population, only 1 in a million people would get this. And it's much more likely for you to be in a plane accident or a car accident or hit by lightning or anything than have this complication. But the thing that they wanted to do with the pause is because this particular blood clot is treated differently than most blood clots. You might have had a friend who had a blood clot in a leg or in a lung, but because this one is treated differently, it's treated with different medications. You can't use the typical heparin that you usually use, and you might use an immune globulin to keep the platelets from being chewed up. There was an anti-platelet antibody found in the people that had these blood clots. So they all had similar symptoms, and they decided they would pause it to let the medical community know how to treat it and let the population know what kind of symptoms that they had. So you guys have all heard that when you get a vaccine for COVID, you might get some side effects like headache and fever and abdominal cramping or just body aches and that kind of thing. The thing with these blood clot symptoms is that those symptoms showed up within 24 or 48 hours. With these symptoms, they show up later. The 2 days have gone by, you're feeling fine, and then you get a severe, severe headache, or you get abdominal pain or leg swelling, or and it's usually a very, very severe headache, and it doesn't go away. And so people who get these symptoms 6 days or after getting the shot should go to their doctor. This is completely treatable and does not need to lead to serious side effects. But that was the reason for letting the medical community know to treat this different, to look for it, and to let the public know that if you get a delayed headache, that it doesn't happen around the time of the shot, but happens 6 to 15 days later, then you should seek medical treatment.
Dr. Cragen, there's a couple questions in the chat, and 2 of them specifically pertain to the J&J. And since we're kind of talking about that, one is in terms of the Johnson & Johnson, do we know how long it offers protection in comparison to Moderna or Pfizer? And then the other is regarding boosters. And I think that really pertains to all 3 types. So I was wondering if you could touch on both of those points.
So far with the mRNA vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, we know that they last, at least 7 months, but probably more. From all indications, it will probably give you a year or 2 of protection. For the J&J vaccine, we don't know. There are ongoing studies. After a vaccine comes out, they must study them for 2 years. And so those studies are going to be ongoing, and they're going to continue to test the people that were in the studies to make sure that they know whether they're still having long-lasting protection. But so far, so good. And the vaccines, so the same is for J&J, the vaccine, they're going to be following them to see how long the protection is going to be for. If I had a crystal ball, I would say that we probably will need boosters, just like with measles. We boost kids before they go off to college. For meningitis, we do the same thing. You get your baby shots, and then before you go to elementary school, you get a booster. So most vaccines do have boosters, and it has to do with the ebb and flow of how people do immunity in their lives. They tend to wane over time, and a booster just reminds your immune system, oh, I've seen this before. I know how to fight this. And
not to interrupt you, but if that's the case, I know some people we've talked to have said like that second dose was just tough. So would a booster dose potentially be
actually
like even more tough, or
a booster dose is usually better than the second shot. So when you're doing a 2-shot series, one of the reasons why they decided to do the 2 shots in the mRNA, and there's only 1 shot in J&J. So with the 2 shots, the first shot introduces your body to the spike protein of the coronavirus, and it gives you a recipe to go into the body. The vaccine only lasts 10 hours in your body, and then it goes away. It's not terribly stable, which is why it has to be in cold temperatures. But it presents the spike protein, which is like the key to let the virus into your cell. It presents it to your body and it says, target this. This will stop the virus before it can affect your body. And that's why vaccines are so much better than getting the disease, because you can stop it at the door and it doesn't have to get in and make you sick. But anyway, so when you get the second dose, you've already been exposed to it, and your second dose helps you make memory. It helps you to remember, oh, we've seen this spike protein before. We know how to, we know how to fight it. And it brings in like reserve troops to come and battle it when you're exposed to the disease.
So one last question, and then I know, thinking about some of the questions people have about if they should even be vaccinated, because, people have had a little bit more time to think about it now since more people have been vaccinated. If you had, for example, Pfizer for your first series, and then the boosters come about, can you mix and match? Like, could I get my booster as a J&J, or could I get a Moderna booster if I had the Pfizer series, or do we not know that
the
yet?
CDC is working on that, and the likelihood is that, yes, you will be able to mix and match. They are working on the studies right now to see how that goes. But like I said, if I have my crystal ball, you will be able to mix and match. Now, it's not recommended that you do that now with the primary series, that if you start with Pfizer, you should get the second dose of Pfizer. And if you start with Moderna, you should get the second dose of Moderna. However, we have the luxury of having 3 vaccines to be able to go and get. There are some countries that don't have any vaccines. Until we are all protected, none of us are protected. So it is best that we all go and take care of getting our vaccine now, because in the next slide, I'll be talking about variants. But before I get there, one of the things that came out this week, and there was another study last week, was about pregnant people and how they are not doing well when they get coronavirus disease. When they get COVID-19, they are increased risk of blood clots, heart attacks, strokes, premature labor, and sometimes the moms and the babies don't do well. That there are babies born with no moms, and there are moms who no longer have babies, and that is unfortunate. The vaccinations have been doing a great job of protecting mom and baby, because the antibodies that mom makes do cross through the placenta and help to protect the baby. It also goes into breast milk, and it is able to protect the baby by giving the antibodies to help the babies fight off the COVID-19 infection. And as you know, we can't give them to babies yet. It hasn't been approved for people under 16. So that is one way to give love and care to your child.
So a question that a lot of people do ask is in terms of the way the vaccines are made. And I know this has been a conversation within some faith communities with regard to the technology. I understand the mRNA vaccine, so Pfizer and Moderna are, they're really not introducing any, they're introducing a recipe, so to speak,
Right.
into your body. Is J&J the same way? I know that for some, there's a concern about the use of fetal tissue, for example, in the vaccine. I believe that the Pope even had come out and sort of said, you know, if you had an option, if you were Catholic or, you know, others, that you, if you had the option, you could take Pfizer or Moderna. But if you didn't, that the option of being vaccinated for the greater good was still a better option. Do you have any thoughts on that, or can you shed any light on that?
So there is no fetal tissue in any of the vaccines. There is just a recipe for the spike protein of the coronavirus, and there is no animal tissue. It's basically for the mRNA. There's the protein recipe, lipid layer, some preservatives, and some sugars and salts, and that's all that's in there. For the J&J, there's the protein recipe, and there's an adenovirus. It is a killed cold virus that is not active and cannot be activated. There is no way for it to go from any of the vaccines, from mRNA to DNA. So it can't affect your DNA. It can't affect your genetics. It can't affect your children's genetics. It does not affect fertility, and it does not affect, the babies going forward. So
Thank you.
those are all the general questions I get about that.
And I have to say, no, we have a really great engaged group in the chat, and I'm sorry that you're not being able to see it. I'm loving keeping it up, and I apologize because my screens, I have too many screens going. So if you see weird things flashing, I apologize, folks.
No, I can see it.
Good.
I just can't type in it right now.
Well, so I know Ms. Elliott has talked about asking about the CDC's recommendation. So we are going to talk on that in just a little bit. But before we move into that, I think it's probably important for us to touch about the vaccine and how it relates to the variants, because I know that's something we've been concerned about at the health department.
Yes. So the variants is actually the same talk about being out in public and wearing masks, because the reason why you're wearing masks is mostly because of the variants. The coronavirus is easily transmitted from person to person by talking or coughing or sneezing, just being around other people. That's why the 6 feet of distance. And it gets into your respiratory system and then gets, throughout your body sometimes. And wearing a mask helps to keep your breath and your droplets to yourself, and hopefully the same for other people. So these variants, viruses, their job is to make more copies of themselves. And the more people they are in, the more virus they make. And they are, they're good at evading, things to keep alive, to keep themselves alive. And so the problem with the variants is that the original SARS-CoV-2 was relatively contagious. The variants are more contagious. And so they're 20 to 60% more contagious than the original strain of SARS-CoV-2. They have not escaped the vaccines yet, which is really, really good. There have been some that have showed reduced response to the antibodies, but that's the reason why the second shot is really important, because it boosts your immune system and it gives you memory so that your body has other cells, B cells and T cells, that can go and attack even when the antibodies aren't working as well. So antibodies kind of coat the virus, they surround it, and they tell your body, come attack this cell. But if they have memory, then they already know, oh, we recognize that. We can go attack it anyway.
I'd just like to add too, I know there has been, conversation around, and we touched on it a minute ago with, the second dose, and it is important to get that second dose. For anybody who's had the first dose and I know this has happened, people have said, oh, I just didn't feel well. I wasn't able to go back for my second dose, whatever the case might be. If you are finding yourself in that situation and you're kind of saying, no, I actually am ready now, I want to go back and get that second dose, I really encourage you to reach out to us at the health department. Again, it's that 410-313-6284 number. And we can work with you. We've definitely had some folks who, for a variety of reasons, maybe they were due to come back for their second dose and they were sick, or something came up. We want to help you get that second dose. So please feel free to reach out to us if you find yourself in that situation.
And most of the mass vaccination sites now have walk-up vaccinations. They will usually tell you the hours that they have those, because they only have a limited number every day. But it's best to make an appointment both at the health department and the pharmacy and the mass vaccination site. But I expect by July it will be pretty easy to get a vaccine if you want one.
I actually will say, and we have had, and I will put the link in the chat here in a minute. We've seen, just in the time since we last convened with our conversation with this group, we've definitely seen a shift. We are very excited that this past weekend we actually did walk-up clinic, and we held it at Long Reach High School just down the street, and we had 500 appointments that were full, and then we were also able to accommodate over 100 walk-ins. So it was really exciting to see. But even our clinic at HCC, we're now taking walk-ins. We've been doing it at North Laurel. So those are just local here at the health department. But as Dr. Cragen said, definitely through the mass vac sites and other sites, we're starting to see it become more available. And I think that's where we kind of reach out to you from the public health standpoint, as your family and your friends. And sometimes it's a matter of, they said they're ready, I'm bringing you with me now. I have a friend who's very, very needle phobic. And when she said she was ready, I said, let's go. And thankfully we were in a place where we could do that. But unfortunately, it hasn't been that way for a while. So this is where each person really has an opportunity to, help others with that. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that later on.
So there's questions again about the boosters. So the boosters probably won't be for more than a year. So, you don't really need to worry about them at this point. They are already working on them. But just like the flu vaccine, they do boosters every year, and they look at what's happening on the other side of the world. And they base what, say, 2022's shots will be based on what 2021's winter was on the other side of the world. So they will put together probably a super booster vaccine with most of the variants that are causing problems at some point down the road. But it's not going to be anytime soon.
What we will see, I'll just jump in, is what we will see is we're going to have our kids. And so this is where, probably coming in short term, I'm hoping, as the mom of 2 middle schoolers that I've been virtual schooling through the last year, I might knock people out of the way to get these kids vaccinated and back in the building. Just kidding.
Yep.
But
I stepped on a few people to get my kids vaccinated. They're teenagers, 16 and up. So
I think,
get vaccinated.
Being able to, especially as families, having those conversations and encouraging people. I know, we're really seeing some shift in who we're actually seeing being hospitalized and having severe illness. And so I think there's a real challenge now with sort of those young adults to sort of the middle-aged folks who did a really good job. As you can see by the fact we have 99% of our 75 and ups vaccinated, we had a lot of people who did a really good job making sure their grandparents and their own parents perhaps got vaccinated, but maybe aren't being quite as compliant, diligent, I don't know, many words you could fill in about getting themselves vaccinated. And
the
so
highest group of people getting COVID now are age 12 to 40. The younger people are the ones getting the disease. And so people have been asking, do I still need to wear a mask? And it depends. The answer depends on where you are and what you're doing and who you're with. And so before I talk about herd immunity, because I'm going to talk about it next, is about the transmissibility. So it is when you're talking, if you put your hand in front of your face, you can feel the breath coming and hitting your hand. And so when you're indoors, your breath is spreading around the inside. So if you go out to eat, or if you're in a concert hall or a movie theater, or you're someplace eating, drinking, and talking and laughing, then you're at risk for getting COVID-19, because all you need to do is be around somebody else who is doing the same thing, and they could be asymptomatic, have no symptoms, and you could go out for an evening and bring COVID home. So you have to think about what it's going to do to your family members. The people were asking, so with the new CDC's recommendations, do I still recommend wearing a mask? And, if I go out for a walk by myself, then I have a mask with me. I don't wear a mask while I'm walking because there's no other human around where I tend to walk. And if I run into a human, then I put my mask on, because I don't know that human, and I don't know whether they do or don't have COVID, or whether they have or have not been vaccinated. Or even if they have been vaccinated, there is a possibility that you could get the disease, even if you have been vaccinated, but it turns into more of a cold, because COVID-19 is a coronavirus, and coronaviruses are notorious that they don't confer long-lasting immunity if you get the disease, and you can get it again. The common cold is a coronavirus. SARS was a coronavirus. MERS was a coronavirus. There are many of them around, and they are relatively contagious. So anybody who's had a cold more than once in their life should understand that you are at risk for getting COVID-19 again. And because of that, masks, social distancing, and hand washing are your defense. And the vaccinations help to make sure that you don't get severely ill and die from this disease. But it decreases transmission. We have that proof now, but people sometimes can still get it. Nobody has died who's been vaccinated and got COVID-19 again. So it does protect you against severe illness and death and hospitalization, but you can possibly get coronavirus. So people who say, I had the disease, why do I need to get a shot? Because you can get it again. And who wants that? So herd immunity is when enough people either have had the disease or are vaccinated, they can protect people who are not able to either get the vaccine, like some people are allergic to it, or some people have an immune problem or take medication. Say a kidney transplant recipient takes immune medication to make sure that they don't reject their kidney that was given to them by somebody else. And they may have difficulty mounting an immune response. Or people with autoimmune diseases. Not that they can't mount an immune response, because most of them can. And we've had millions of people with autoimmune diseases take the vaccine and do very well and mount immune responses. But there are a few people who don't. And so to protect those people, if you think about a circle of chairs with 10 people in it, and then you put an elderly person in the middle who cannot take the vaccine, your grandmother, your grandfather, your cousin, uncle, niece, your tiny 7-year-old sickle cell, cousin, whoever that person is in the middle of the circle that you want to protect and that you love. If 10 people around them are vaccinated and that person can't get vaccinated, then somebody who walks into the room who has COVID-19 COVID-19 can't get to that person because all the people around them cannot transmit it to them. So herd immunity is protecting those who cannot take the vaccine. We need to get to 70 to 80% of the population to get to herd immunity. Any other?
I love that analogy of building the circle around that. And I think, especially just thinking about this faith community and how strong you are. I mean, that is truly an act of love, and doing that. And so, I think it's one of the favorite things as we've co-presented, Dr. Cragen, that I've picked up from you and learned from you and how I explain it to others. I think it's.
But the fact that we are only at like 30, no, we just hit 56%, I think, of the US that's been vaccinated with 2 shots. We have a long way to go. And we are battling changing variants. So it's kind of a race to see if we can get more people vaccinated before the virus gets smart enough to get around our vaccines. And, they're planning boosters in the future, but, then you have to get a whole population, vaccinated again. It would be better if we can vaccinate now, get the numbers down so that we have less variants, because if there's no people who are sick with COVID-19, then there's no people replicating the virus in their body to make new variants. And then we can all go back and do things outside and with other people. I'm going to let you talk about testing.
Sure. I think, that's a question that we get a lot. And anyone who's had a COVID test knows it's probably not the most pleasant experience we could have. And, unfortunately, I think that has deterred some. And we have seen in our county a decline in testing. And so I think it's really important for people to understand that testing is a critical tool that we have in surveillance of the variants.
So if you're planning to get together with family, get tested before you do that.
Exactly.
You don't know if you have it. And if you take it to your family members, then, that's just not, you go to see your family because you love them and you miss them. But you don't want to go and give them something that they can't get rid of or that they'll live with the rest of their life.
Exactly.
Get tested before you see each other. In addition, I'm sorry, you were saying.
Oh, no, I was actually just going to say, there's a question for Mr. Massey about the best mask. And I'm sure you've been asked this by patients. It's sort of like, what is the best, and do I need to double mask if I have been vaccinated and or if I'm tested? And, if you had any thoughts on either of those points.
A 2-layer mask or stronger is what is recommended for a mask. And the CDC came out today and said that, if you're outside, you can go without a mask. I don't, if I'm around another human, and I'm not planning to, because I have vulnerable people in my life that I am responsible for their care and well-being. And it is my responsibility to make sure I take care of those who cannot, if their immune system is not strong enough. It's really important that I make sure that I'm not bringing them anything. So if I am out and about, I don't go to indoor restaurants or movie theaters or any of those things. And I don't plan to until our numbers in America, not just in Maryland, are below 5% and they stay there. At that point, I would feel a little more comfortable being out without a mask. And until then, you will see me masked in public.
Yeah, I think, and we're going to talk a little bit about like sort of that personal decision making, but with respect to the testing, I just wanted to share this with everybody, that we are trying to make testing easier. And I know that, people have asked a lot about rapid testing. When testing first came about, it did take a longer time to process them. I think that has improved dramatically in respect to how quickly it takes to get tests back. There are a number of mobile testing sites now, and they're kind of like float through the community, as well as being able to get tested through providers' offices and some of our regular testing sites. But I also wanted to refer people to the Azova testing, which is a saliva-based test kit. If you're somebody who feels like it would be beneficial to be regularly tested, we definitely, would encourage you to take advantage of the Azova testing. It really is a very simple, I spit on a stick. I mean, it's a very simple test, and we do have a regular testing opportunities available through the health department, and we'll be looking at working with community groups and providing additional testing as part of regular screening and ongoing things. So certainly know that these are available to you, and if you are interested in looking for more testing sites, we can do that. I see the question regarding testing sites, and so I'll put the link to where you can find that information in the chat, because there are a number of ongoing testing sites that are available still through Centennial Medical Group has a number of testing sites. First Call Urgent Care has a number of testing sites in addition to the ones that we've had at the volunteer fire departments, et cetera. So I'll put a link in there for that. But we do encourage you to go ahead and continue that testing. But I know that we've touched on this a bit, and people are really anticipating. I can speak from my own personal experience. I struggled a lot with my parents who were like, I'm vaccinated, bring on the grandkids. And I was like, but the kids are back in school. And so making some of those decisions, we found a window between when my parents were fully cooked, as we referred to them, and their vaccine, they were considered fully vaccinated. And before my kids, who were the last wave to go back into the buildings, did that. And we managed to sneak in a visit to Grandma and Grumpy's house. But I think there is a lot that we can kind of discuss here. So,
and fully vaccinated is 2 weeks after either the second dose of the Pfizer or Moderna, or 2 weeks after the J&J vaccine. One of the other things that people were asking is, how do they convince their family members who are resistant? One of the things that I find that helps the most is talking to people that they trust and people that they love. And so, if you get vaccinated and you don't grow a tail, you don't have an extra appendage, then they're like, well, you seem to still be doing okay, so maybe I can get vaccinated. Share with them what your symptoms were, share with them what the process was like, and they are, give them the opportunity to ask questions. Share information that you got from this talk or other talks that you might have seen. I wouldn't suggest sharing things on Facebook or Twitter because you need to be careful about the information that you're exposing yourself to. Just like I said, there are no animal products in the vaccines. There are no chips in the vaccines. There is no fetal tissue in the vaccines. But there are a lot of interesting people targeting our Black and brown populations to foster vaccine hesitancy. And check the source of what you're looking at before you forward it, because forwarding things that are not based in science just makes it difficult for us to all be well and together in 2022. So what I'm hoping is that we will have kid vaccines starting 12 and up this summer, and before the end of the year for those 5 and up. Infants will take a little longer, probably next year. Okay. Sorry, I got off track because I was in the chat looking at questions. So
I think, we've touched on a lot of these things, but just, and we've put a couple different links in for like the CDC's new guidance. And I will say that, as all of this unfolds, the guidance changes and will continue to change. And I think, Dr. Cragen and I kind of shared, share some thoughts in terms of that personal decision making. And so we wanted to give you all just some things to consider as you're making informed choices about decision making. And some of these are actually things that you can carry with you much easier than a rubric or pictogram that the CDC gives you, or graphics that kind of say, well, this one, it's okay, this one's not. Although those are very helpful, I think some of the things that are really important to think about, again, what is going on around us, and as was brought up, not just around us, but in the country. I know, I sort of use that free to move about the cabin kind of mentality, and as people have started to travel more and visit people, and it has been a long year, and even some short trips here and there, I think it's very important for people to think about what is going on in the community, both locally as well as places that they are traveling to and from.
So if you're going to plan an event, working it so that you can plan an event that decreases everybody's risk and yet you can still get together. It would be best if everybody were fully vaccinated, and a lot more people have been vaccinated. I saw in the chat that most people at St. John have been vaccinated. I'm like, that's fabulous. But then the question is, what about your cousin? Have you talked to, your neighbor? Is there anyone in your life that you see regularly? I'm all about closing the loop. I want to make sure everybody that I know, love, and talk to is vaccinated. And if they have questions or concerns, get them answered. And I'm sure that everybody is not going to either want to get vaccinated or be able to get vaccinated. But, there will be some stopgaps in life. They're talking about being able to prove that you were vaccinated to be able to do certain things. Is your job going to ask you to do it? Ultimately, is it going to be required for travel? Is it going to be required to go to that party? There are a variety of little, gates that might come down if you haven't been vaccinated. So my focus has been making sure that all that I love around me are able to get the vaccine. And I fought really hard to get some of them vaccinated. So outdoors is best. If you're going to have food or drink, it is best to keep in your social bubble. So the people that you live with, kind of like at a wedding, table number 14 can go now to the buffet, and table number 22 can go to the buffet. So everybody who's at a particular table, as in your household, you move as a unit, and then you are less likely to get COVID from people who don't live with you. That way, it's a safer way to eat and drink without having problems.
I'm probably like the Grinch that stole family reunions when I say this, but we're, going back to the beginning, we're not there yet. So, it's a good idea to, if you can, pause on having that family reunion or those big gatherings, just a bit longer, and I think there are ways that things can be done more safely in smaller groups. I know, we did actually, we invested in some card tables. So we'll have people out in the backyard and we kind of distance our tables, and everybody, sits and has their little family table that they can sit at. But, it's still a relatively small group. It's not, large gatherings of people. And it does fill your bucket. You still feel like you've seen some folks, and that definitely feels good. But it's also being safe and protecting other people.
And trying to avoid indoor places like restaurants and bars, places where you would get together with people who do not live with you, with masks off. Nice ventilated spaces are better. So if there can be a window that can be opened, that is always better than if there isn't.
Yeah. And I see a couple comments, the one regarding not using shared serving utensils. I think it's actually something that is probably recommended would be more if, you can kind of like we don't necessarily say go out and eat, right? But if you wanted to order in, often those meals, we just did this past weekend, we ordered from a local restaurant and we each had our own meal. So we all had our own tools, our own meal. We weren't using shared like serving spaces, things along that line if it's possible. Another question or comment in the chat had to do with kind of jumping back to testing and sort of, will that be a routine part of our lives? And I would venture to say that for the time being, it should be, and it will be.
Yeah. Until we get our numbers down, it probably will be something. So if you're getting ready to go on a trip, or if you're going to go visit grandma, if you have kids in school, they may, they have sample testing. And so, you may get a letter saying that, somebody in the school has been exposed to COVID. And if your child is in a particular class with another child that may have had COVID, and they're always very vague. There's COVID in the school.
My kids' first day back in school, we actually got that email on the first day they were back in school, and I thought,
my daughter's school,
do I panic now or no? And of course, thankfully we opted not to panic in our household, but that is something that we're working closely with the schools to be able to do that. In fact, parents of Howard County Public School System children had an opt-in measure so that you were basically consenting to testing in the school. And I think I don't want to put any of my teenagers on the spot. They're rummaging for food in the next room, but I'm pretty sure that they would be completely okay with testing if it meant that they got to be out of the house a couple days a week. So, thinking about other activities that young people and even ourselves have been doing. I know I would very much love to be in a place where I could resume rehearsals for things that I personally enjoy doing, or my children have been very active in, their athletics and other things outside of school. And, there is a level of reassurance knowing that, our soccer club, for example, has a testing protocol and things along that line. I think it's a way for us to balance the somewhat abnormal time we're living in and make things a little bit more normal so that we can continue to do things.
And, one last thing with the sports, that after the sports is over, going out for the pizza party indoors is probably not a good idea right now. So, but yes, testing will be something that you might need from time to time if you're planning to move between your group and somebody else's group. Okay.
So people, I think probably I would love to say we were like a fantastic tag team. And we've convinced everyone that they're ready to get vaccine and that they're confident in that. But I think the reality that we recognize is certainly, how do we address concerns that still exist? And there are a lot of reasons why people are nervous. There are a lot of reasons why people have concerns. You take a look at the historical mistrust. Even I know that, even with the particular vaccine that, there are some, cultural concerns about companies and how they've been produced. I know, comment or question was, can people opt out of certain vaccine? Yeah. And I do believe that we are in a place now. Initially, when vaccine came out, it was so limited that it was kind of like, you get what you get. We didn't have a lot of option. We are now at a place where people can actually select or be more selective in what vaccine they take. Right.
And if you register at most places, they will tell you what kind of vaccine you're going to be getting. And if that's not the one that you wanted, then you can register someplace else. So we have the luxury of 3 different vaccines to choose from. People ask me all the time, what vaccine would I take? And I would take the vaccine that I can get my hands on. I have been vaccinated. I had the Moderna vaccine. But at the time that I took it in December, just after, Moderna got, that's right, it was December because it was 2 weeks after Pfizer got approved. Anyway, I took the first one I could get my hands on. And if J&J had been available, I would have taken that too. Because the risk of the actual disease is so much. It's a very serious problem, and it took a lot of people away. Um, and I know that there is a lot of mistrust about the speed of the vaccine, but the whole world pivoted to make this vaccine a possibility. And so all the scientists in multiple countries pivoted. The mRNA technology has been around for about 28 years. It's been used in humans before, but this is the first time it's been rolled out on a mass scale. But it's been used in cancer research. It was used in SARS before. It was used with Zika. It's been used with Ebola. Um, and it is a technology that we will probably see a lot more going forward because the little recipe, it's easy to just stamp out a different little recipe and put it into the vaccine. It doesn't take them long to change the formula. So the likelihood is that we'll be seeing a lot more going forward, and it's been proven safe. After I think we crossed 1 billion people now that have been vaccinated by it. And but being able to trust something, the thing that was reassuring to me about this process is that, I'll give you an example. Merck had come out with a vaccine, and they started their studies, and it was found that their vaccine was safe, but it wasn't effective. And so they stopped the study. For the J&J, they found a minuscule side effect, and they paused to make sure everybody was aware of it. But our tracking and tracing is working, and it is the most transparent of any vaccine rollout I have ever seen, and this is in 30 years of practice. So I feel very comfortable with the fact that there is a panel that's looking at the side effects every week, and that people of color, Black people, Asians, Indians, have been involved in this process the whole way through its inception. Dr. Corbett helped to perfect the lipid coating of the mRNA Moderna vaccine, which is why it doesn't need to be super cold. And the Pfizer one does. So there are Black people on the CDC. There are Black people on the ACIP council that does the advisory to the FDA and the CDC. We are now in the boardrooms and on the panels and in every phase of the decision making. And that makes me feel more comfortable.
And I put in the chat box the link to the VSafe site as well, because we also encourage people, again, this is sort of a self-reporting, any kind of effects from the vaccine. And it really gives everybody an opportunity to contribute to the data around the vaccine and what happens. And I know, that is something that truly brings me confidence. And we touched on, if pregnant women choose to be vaccinated, there's actually a VSafe element for tracking, vaccination among pregnant women. And I think that that's a wonderful, resource and tool as well for people to, I think this entire experience in many cases has left a lot of people feeling somewhat powerless. But an opportunity to contribute to the science, an opportunity to actively do something, to make a choice to protect another person, to make a choice to share your experience with another person. Those are ways that we can take that power back, or give ourselves and empower ourselves to do something with the experience that we've, universally shared. And I think that that's a really important opportunity for people to connect with. And there's a couple resources. Go ahead.
I have several friends who were involved in the trials, people that I grew up with, and they enrolled their children in the trials, just to be able to, instead of making the narrative, instead of being told what the narrative is.
Right.
And they felt very important. She's a breast cancer survivor and wanted to be part of changing the narrative for Black people, because Black people traditionally aren't involved in a lot of the vaccine studies, because of their hesitancy, because of previous historical issues. But out of some of the historical problems that we've had in the past, we now have good consent laws where nothing can happen without your consent. So when someone asked, do we have to take the J&J? No, you do not have to take the J&J. You can choose to do something different. And whether it is taking a vaccine or getting a procedure done, you need to give your consent. You need to understand what you're doing and have the opportunity to get your questions answered and have the ability to say yes or no. It is your body, your life. And I'm a proponent of making sure that people have information so that they can make informed decisions for themselves and their loved ones. There was a question about whether getting the vaccine decreases the ability to transmit and get COVID-19. The short answer is yes, but it's a little more complicated than that. Because the coronavirus is a coronavirus, you can lose your immunity to it. Like the cold virus is a coronavirus, so you can get it again. People have had colds more than once in their life, usually more than once in a year if you have kids. So I'm not suggesting that you would get COVID-19 more than once in a year, but I do know people who have had COVID-19 more than once in a year. And usually the second time is not as easy as the first time. So for the young people who say, I'll be fine, it's not a big deal for me. I know people who it is a big deal for. So I would not like to roll those dice, and I am advising my loved ones not to get it in the first place. And if you do get it, and you're one of the long haulers, I'm sure that there are people who might have had the disease. Long haulers are people who still have symptoms after the 14 days. There are resources like Survivor Corps to have a place where you can talk about the issues that you're going through, get resources for help. There are long COVID trials going on so that they can find out the best ways to treat. But you can get it again, but if you do get it again after you've been vaccinated, it changes it from a severe, life-threatening disease to something more like a cold. Go ahead.
Dr. Cregan, you touched on this a little bit, and I think, kind of talking about finding support. One thing, what we all met earlier today, and I was sharing how today seemed to be all the appointments I've been putting off day, and I had like back-to-back doctor's appointments. I think it's really important for people to be mindful that we have to take care of our overall health. And, there are certain health conditions and chronic diseases that put us at a higher risk for COVID, severity of illness related to COVID-19. And so I think you were touching on something that's really important about, not losing sight and not neglecting both our physical health as well as our mental health and our well-being. I think that's probably now more than ever a really important thing for us to kind of think about as, we're all tired. We're tired. And, I think
it is important to get enough sleep, and it is important to eat well, get enough fruits and vegetables, get exercise. It is important to do all of these things, not just for COVID, for your body overall, and doing your regularly age-appropriate doctor visits and screening tests. Your mammograms, your colonoscopies, your dental visits. it's important to start doing some of those. One of the things about getting vaccinated is that you can move about and go and get some of these regular tests, because cancer doesn't go away and diabetes doesn't go away. High blood pressure doesn't go away. And if you just sit on them and you don't monitor them, then you're much more likely to be diagnosed with your cancer at a later stage when we can't do anything about it. Or if you have high blood pressure and diabetes, your kidneys can gallop off into the sunset and you will need dialysis in 5 years. That if you had just taken care of it, then you can, go on and live life without having some of the side effects of chronic disease.
And I
So
think too, like the effect of some of the diseases, and you mentioned, people getting colonoscopy, colorectal cancer fatalities in the Black community in Howard County, and colorectal cancer deaths are highest in, our Black residents. And so really thinking about, taking control of our health and advocating for, the things. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Getting a colonoscopy is probably not high on my list of fun things to do. However, I
it's
think it's
actually not that bad.
incredibly important.
Actually, it's the best sleep you've ever had because you're not awake when it happens. So
There
you
you go.
don't know. It's
Um,
fine.
But I think it's, it kind of comes back to just, again, I guess we're both putting on our mom hats too, and really kind of thinking about those health things that we definitely need to be taking care of. And I did want to just sort of share a resource that is available in our community. We have something called findhcresources.org, and it really can help search with any number of things. And so, if there's like a note that you take from, the conversation of like, I might want to check that out later, I think this would be a great resource because it actually can help connect you if you're looking for like a chronic disease self-management class, or you're, even thinking about the things that maybe we don't necessarily correlate with our health, but they really impact our health. When we think about having, access to education and access to housing and any of these things that we might need in our lives, they really impact our health. And so I just want to encourage people to take advantage of that.
So a couple of things to address in the chat.
Yep.
I had mentioned earlier, be careful what you see and you're sharing. Be careful, that your friends will be like, oh, this was funny, I'm just going to share it. Or, oh, I'm concerned about COVID, I'm just going to share it. And be careful who is sending you things, like where it's coming from. There are movements out there, the anti-vax movement. There's a large religious movement that's out there that is sharing misinformation. And it is really important that you check on some well-respected, vetted sites. If there's no research in the information, if they can't refer to a resource or a study, then it may not be the best information. If you can't look it up and find it. So the anatomy of a conspiracy is they take a little nugget of truth, they wrap it with fear, and they send it out in an interesting way. Either it's funny, or it warms the heart, or it speaks to something that you've heard about in your childhood. They just wrap it in an interesting way so that you're much more likely to share it. And misinformation travels so much faster than true information because explaining scientific stuff takes a little bit of time, and a cute little video doesn't take that much time. So explaining things, not as interesting or fun.
Unless it's us, we're interesting and fun.
Yeah.
If it's us, I hope.
Opal had another question about boosters, and if it's not that we would lose our immunity, the immunity lasts, but originally they were made for the original SARS-CoV-2 virus, and now we have variants which are slightly different. So the little protein that the little spike protein that we put as a recipe and put in the vaccine is being changed a little bit each time that there's variants. And most of the time it doesn't do much, but sometimes the variants make it more contagious, or it's more easy to get into the cells. And so what we want to guard for is keeping track of what the variants are doing, so that if we need to change the vaccine that we make, those would be the boosters. We won't need them right away. All of the vaccines are effective against the variants that we currently have, but we need to get the numbers down so we don't make more variants. And so if we are going to have boosters, it probably won't be every year. It will probably be more like a measles vaccine or a tetanus shot. You get a tetanus shot every 10 years. Measles, if you're younger, you get it more often. So you get it a couple times when you're, a baby to elementary school, and then you get another somewhere between middle school and high school. And sometimes you get one, after college or before you're getting ready to have a child. So, every 5 to 20 years is what, that vaccination schedule is, depending on how old you are. So it depends on who you are, how old you are, and what's going on with the transmissibility and the variants that are out at the time. So the jury is still out. Will there be boosters? Probably. Will we need them often? Probably not. What we've seen is that the immunity is lasting. The thing that would change that is the new variants that would get around the vaccine.
So I know we're kind of coming up on, close to the time. And I wanted to just, if we could, just take a few minutes and think about next steps and homework. And I know it sounds a little odd that I want to give give people homework. But if you think about, for those of you that were able to join us in the last session, how much changed just in 30 days. I think that we would probably both venture to guess that when we come back together a month from now, we will probably be talking to you about those 12 to 15-year-olds and getting them vaccinated. And as parents and family members, how do we make decisions for them? How do we help inform them so that they feel confident? Although I know I'm making the decision for my kids, they're old enough to need to and want to, and it's my job to help them know how to be educated about that. I see that knowledge is power in the chat, and that's 100% true. So I would kind of offer and challenge everyone to some homework, which is talk to the young people in your lives and find out and listen to them about what questions they have about the vaccine, what concerns they have about the vaccine, what have they heard about the vaccine, and certainly kind of, as we talked about, sharing your testimony about being vaccinated with not only those that we're going to be sort of looking to next, but also with friends and neighbors. It sounds like, St. John, I know Reverend Turner does not joke. He is all about getting everybody vaxxed. Let's get vaxxed is very much been something that we've been very thankful for. But thinking about how do we take that and, I think, as a faith community, you're called to be disciples and go into the community and carry that. And so looking at how does that relay with helping others find their confidence in getting vaccinated, I think is a really important thing for everyone to take as homework.
Like I said, we're not safe unless we're all safe. And that includes not just Howard County, not just St. John, but the whole world is going to need to put a stop to this virus. And we have the tools to do it. We just have to be able to be advocates to make sure that, each one reach one and make sure that we all can get through this together.
Definitely. I'm going to include in the chat just some contact information if you do have questions. I certainly invite you to reach out to me at the health department. We're happy to kind of I really, truly commend everybody for sticking through and staying with us in the presentation. But, now we engage you as carriers of this information as Dr. Cragen and I have been working really hard, and I think we try to do as much as we can, but we need everyone's help. And as was said, this is if we each are able to convey that, we really need everyone to continue keep wearing those masks, keep maintaining the distance, keep washing our hands, getting tested, really helping to carry forth that information. That is how we are going to see that change.
If you're going to plan an event, do it smartly. Plan a vaccination event that everybody needs to be vaccinated who comes. And, people, I don't recommend interstate travel to go see family members because you're going to possibly expose yourself. Do you get on a plane? Do you drive? Do you, expose yourself by doing that? But, if you are planning something, I'm throwing out the worst scenario. If you're planning something, then make sure to try to do it the best way you can. Have people test before they come to a group event. Have it be outside or have there be great ventilation. Do not eat next to each other. This is not all sit down at the dining table and eat. It is do it in shifts or waves and do it outside if possible. I don't know. I think we hit anything. If there was something that you put in the chat that we didn't see, we still have a few minutes to address it. Could you put it in again if there was something that we missed for you? Hi, Lisa.
Hello. Well, I don't know about you, but you gave us an awesome update about getting vaccinated, getting our families vaccinated, and even wanting to get back together with our family. I know I am a little guilty about wanting to get out. One thing my family did religiously every Sunday was Sunday dinner, and my siblings are missing that. And so, but I have family in healthcare. So they work at the hospital, they work at rehab facilities and nursing homes, and we just can't do it. So thank you for the update. I want to thank everyone who attended. Kelly has made herself available to each and every one of you if you have additional questions. If you want to contact the information line, take a look at some of the links that she shared with you. Dr. Cragen, as usual, you have given us some wonderful things to think about from a doctor perspective, so that we don't have to visit our doctor's office with things that you've warned us about. And so thank you for your expertise. If we have any more additional questions, I encourage you to drop them in the chat section quickly before we wrap this up. But I also want to say and remind everyone that these ladies have generously agreed to continue our updates and our vaccination information through June. And so we are excited that they will be back on Tuesday, May 25th at 7:00 p.m. And they are going to bring some updates from now to then. And then they're also going to touch base on COVID-19 and kids. So if you have kiddos or grandkids or great-grandkids, teenagers, even the young adults who we've talked about today who have not considered getting vaccinated, we're going to touch base on that. The funny thing, I just took my daughter to her yearly checkup, and it shocked me that her doctor said, if she still has virtual school, give her virtual school until we get a vaccination. And so I was like blown away, shocked that he gave me that advice, but I understood where he was coming from, that the younger population is now the ones that are being affected. So we're going to find out all of that good information for your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. So share the word. Let people know, your neighbors, your family members, that if they want to get the information firsthand, then they need to join us on Tuesday, May 25th at 7 o'clock p.m. right here on our Facebook channel. They will be live again and bringing some good information. So again, I don't see any questions popping up. I want to do a closing prayer and then we're going to dismiss everyone and thank you so much for attending. So let us pray. Father God, we thank you. We thank you because you have allowed your people to assemble to get valuable information, God. We are blessed that you were in the midst, that you had your hand on this event. And now, God, we're asking for a special dose of protection. Father God, that you surround your people, Father God, that you lead them and guide them in the right way to make informed decisions, Father God, on their health, their family, and their vaccination plan. God, we're asking that no disease come nigh their dwelling, Father God, and that you bless them indeed. God, we thank you for this information, for our presenters who have presented. And God, until next time, we ask that you keep us all in your perfect care. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for attending. And we see you back here
Thank you.
on May 25th.
Thank you.